Okay, let's just jump right in with a big question. What if everything, I mean every star, every planet, you, me, what if it isn't just a bunch of particles following some abstract rules? What if it's all actually made from one single, continuous fabric of reality? Today, we're going to unpack this really fascinating idea that, honestly, challenges our whole concept of what space even is. So to really get our heads around this new idea, we've got to go back in time and look at an old ghost that's been kind of haunting physics for centuries. We're talking about a concept of a hidden medium, something that fills the entire universe. Now, this idea was famously, and I mean famously, proven wrong. But, some ideas have a funny way of coming back from the dead.
All right, so let's get into it. First up, that old ghost I mentioned, the classical ether. For a long, long time, this idea just made sense. It felt right. Think about it. Sound waves travel through air, right? Ocean waves travel through water. So light waves must have to travel through something too, yeah? Well, that something was called the ether. It was supposed to be this invisible, universal substance that filled every single nook and cranny of space. It was a really neat, tidy theory. Everything fits in a nice little box. But there was one big problem. When scientists finally got the tools to actually go looking for this ether, well, they found nothing. Zilch. Nada. So the idea was abandoned, and its downfall was swift. Yeah, it all happened pretty fast. Back in 1887, you had this super famous Michelson-Morley experiment. They were trying to detect this ether wind, the drag from the Earth moving through this stuff. And they came up with absolutely nothing. Then, of course, along comes Einstein. And his theory of relativity? It worked perfectly fine without needing an ether at all. So by the middle of the 20th century, that was it. The book was closed. Case dismissed. And just like that, physics moved on. The new picture was completely different. It was all about abstract fields and beautiful, elegant mathematics existing in truly empty space. No substance, no medium, just rules. And really, for the last 100 years or so, that's been the standard model we've all worked with. But what if that picture isn't the whole story? What if it's incomplete? And this right here is where a really bold modern idea enters the stage. It's a proposal called CSpace. So what is CSpace? Well, the idea is that it's a single, continuous material that makes up literally all of reality. Now, the keywords to remember here are four-dimensional and elastic. This is really important. It's not just some background medium. The theory says it's the actual stuff from which everything else, you, me, the stars, emerges. Okay. I know what you're thinking right now. Hold on a second. A material that fills all of space? Didn't you just tell us that idea got tossed out 100 years ago? And look, that is a totally fair question. It really gets to the absolute heart of this whole thing. So let's tackle that head on. Is CSpace just the old ether dressed up in a new costume? Well, the people who propose this idea argue absolutely not. They say it's something entirely different, so let's find out why. Let's put them side by side and see what's what. All right, first big difference, their role in the universe. Think of the old Aether as a passive stage. It was just the background for stuff to happen on. CSpace, totally different ballgame. It's proposed to be the only thing that exists. It is the stage, it's the actors, it's the entire play, all rolled into one. All that stuff we call matter and energy, in this view, they're just phenomena, like little vibrations and tensions happening within this one single substance. Okay, second key difference is what they're actually supposed to be made of, their physical nature. The ether was always thought of in a mechanical way, like a gas or a fluid. Space, on the other hand, is theorized to be fundamentally elastic. So think less like a giant ocean and more like a cosmic trampoline. It's a fabric that can stretch, it can compress, and it can vibrate. And this really gets to the absolute core of the argument. The source material for this idea puts it perfectly, saying, space is the only thing that exists in reality and is therefore no background. Let that sink in. In other words, if it's everything, how can it be a background for something else? It just can't. It's a totally different way of thinking about reality itself. Okay, so this all leads to the biggest question of all, right? Why? Why even go back to the idea of a material fabric? I mean, why challenge a model of abstract laws that has been so incredibly successful? Well, the whole motivation here is to find the physical machinery that's working behind the scenes, behind the math. See, our abstract equations are amazing at describing how the universe behaves, but they don't really tell us why. The folks who support the CSpace idea suggest that reality isn't just governed by a set of rules, but by the actual physical properties of the material it's made from.
So at the end of the day, the goal of an idea like CSpace is to bridge that gap. It's about moving beyond just describing the universe with math and trying to find the physical engine that actually makes the whole thing run.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound final question to chew on. At its deepest, most fundamental level, is our universe basically a giant cosmic computer just running on pure abstract code? Or is it something more tangible, something real? A vast, elastic material whose properties give rise to every single thing we see and know? Honestly, this is one of the biggest questions in physics today, and you can be sure that ideas like CSpace are going to keep that debate raging for a long, long time to come.